Well, I have to say, that's about the fastest that I've lost $30,000 in a while. It happened in the blink of an eye. I had 15,000 shares of a stock. It dropped $2 a share. Boom, 30 grand gone. $30,000, that can go a long ways. That could be a certified pre-owned minivan. For the kids, the dogs, well, I guess it's not in the cards for me today because that money is gone. But there is a silver lining. Today, I had 3 stocks I traded. One of them, I lost 30 grand on. The other, I made $5,000 on, and the third one, I made $45,000 on, which means net, at the end of the day right now, I'm up 20 grand. And you know what? As I looked at that number, I couldn't help but feel disappointed. Why? Because I had been up 50,000. It was my last trade of the day that cost me 30 grand. And I said to myself, imagine this. Imagine if my first trade had been a $30,000 loss. If that had been my first trade and I had spent the whole morning in the red only to recover and be green by $20,000, I would be ecstatic. I would be blown away. I'd be blown away up $20,000. It's the same amount of money. 2 different perspectives, 2 different mindsets. So is there a way that I can trick myself into feeling great about it instead of feeling like the glass is half empty? Well, I think there is. It really comes down to your choice of how you want to interpret the day. So I'm going to choose to say, and this is a fact, that I'm up $20,000 today, and my daily goal is 20 grand. That's my hot market daily goal. Life is good. I made $65,000 yesterday. I came in today willing to take some risk. I had a cushion. Okay, I gave back a little off the top, but all's well that ends well. I'm walking away with more money in my pocket than I had at the beginning of the morning. We definitely, however, have to look closely at this trade right here because that loss would have liked to have avoided that. And if I could avoid them in the future, that would obviously, it would make a big difference. Okay, so we're not going to be able to avoid all the losses. Losses happen, but just paying attention to where they're more likely to happen is a good use of time. But let's begin by looking at what the market is, looked at this morning at about 7 a.m. So when I first sat down at 7 a.m., I looked at GLTO from yesterday, and I had noticed that, it had made, of course, that big move yesterday, which I did well on, pulled back, and then in after hours, it was consolidating. And I wondered if this was going to give us a second move this morning. However, what I knew was that today's volume would be a fraction of the volume that we had yesterday. So lighter volume, combined with being a little higher priced, the risk would be a bit higher. And so I decided not to take any trades on it. The leading gapper was actually MSPR, and this is the stock that has the most volume in the market today. Nearly 300 million shares of volume. It's a lot of volume. However, it's cheaper. The move began after hours, kind of continued pre-market, but it's a little too cheap for me, so I said, nope, I don't like it. So coming into 7 a.m., I didn't see anything on my scans that I liked. So I was like, all right, no trades at 7 a.m. Let's wait for news at 7:30. 7:30 comes and goes with no headlines. 8 a.m. 8 a.m., we do have news. We have news on stock TURB. Now, TURB, TURB Ferguson, this is a stock that was up quite a bit back here in September 16th. So the thing with this is that we had a huge move on it. Then it pulls back all the way down here. And when it first popped up, I looked at the headline and I was like, tokenization of hybrid renewable energy products. I don't know about that. So I sort of dismissed it. That's sometimes a mistake. I had a little bit of a bias on it. And so I did not trade it at the beginning of this move. It ends up popping up here from 2 to 3, 350. I don't trade it. Goes up to 4. I don't trade it. Pulls back, pops back up. I don't trade it. So now it's 815, 825, still not trading it, but I'm watching it. And I'm noticing that it's pulled back right down to about the volume weighted average price. And that this makes it a stock that actually does meet all 5 pillars of stock selection for me. And, it's one of the top 3 leading gainers on the day. So as I watched it here, I said, let's wait to see if we get any news at the bottom of the hour. 8:30. 8:30 comes and goes. We don't have any news. And so I said, if this breaks this wedge here, it's going to be game time. And so as it started to pull away, I added 15,000 shares at 350. I added another 15,000 shares at 360, and I kept adding 380, 390, $4. And this thing squeezes all the way up to 420, pulls back for a moment, then rips up here to 440. And I ended up pulling out a profit of over $45,000. It was a big position, I had to take some risk. But this thing went up almost $1 a share. Now, what's very interesting is in spite of that move, which was a pretty impressive move, it's now pulled back quite a bit. And what happened on these two candles right here at 837 and 838? I can tell you exactly what happened. 837, 838. Let's pull up QNRX. QNRX pops up this morning at 834. It initially is slow to take off, as you can see right here. But at 837, it starts to squeeze. 837. Attention shifted. Traders abandoned TURB in favor of QNRX, a stock with a lower float that was squeezing up that also had news. Now, in total, I wasn't able to really make that much on it. The spreads were bigger, the volume was lighter, but it clearly showed this tendency that traders have to abandon one stock that's not working and shift focus. And so we ended up getting this pop here, a little pullback, a pop back up, and we slowly rallied back up here. And I kept trading it. I kept waiting to see if we would break through that high, but it just couldn't quite happen. So as we got closer to the open, another stock popped up on my scanner, and that is the one that did me in, Rain. So what happened? The stock hits my scanner right here. It pops up and it sells off. As it popped up and sold off, I pulled up the daily chart and noticed that this is actually a blue sky setup over about 1050.11. All-time highs. Floats 1.7 million shares. It has a news headline. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. And it ends up popping up right here and squeezing back through 750. Right here, it pops up, and I get in with slippage at $8.50. I got 2,000 shares filled. It goes all the way up to 11. I take profit off the table, and I'm like, fantastic. Now I'm up almost 55,000 on the day. It dips down right here, and I'm like, micro pullback, I'm in. I add back 15,000 shares right here for the break at 10, and it doesn't break. It is unable to break. Unfortunately, on this, I bought, and it just could not break that level. There was a lot of selling right against 10. It dips down. It comes back up, and I'm like, let's see if it breaks on the second attempt. It doesn't. It dips down again. Then it drops to 950, drops to 9, and I'm like, uh-oh, I'm down 15 grand on this, $1 a share. I got to get out. I try to press the sell button. I get filled some of my shares, and it keeps dropping all the way down to 8. It drops down to 750. It drops all the way down to 7. It dropped $3 a share, and I lost an average of $2 a share, $31,000. Wow, that's a big loss, and it happened quickly. And that was my last trade of the day, because at that point I said, look, I just gave back more than half my profit on the day. I've got to be grateful for what I still have left in my pocket and not take any more trades. So here it is, nearly 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I haven't taken any more trades. I just have to accept that, unfortunately, things kind of fell apart today. I had a great day going. I stepped up, I took a little risk, and unfortunately, for whatever reason on this one, we had a big hidden seller there right about $10. Now, I could tell it was a hidden seller after I got in, but now I was in heavy with 15,000 shares. Now, turning around and selling them immediately on the bid, that's a big position to sell. I usually sell half, and I waited to be sure that it wasn't going to work. And by the time I was sure it wasn't going to work, I was already down 15 grand. So it's disappointing, but this is the reality of trading. Losses happen. They're unavoidable, and I don't feel too bad about it because today was the day to step up to the plate. I had a cushion. I was up 50 grand on the day. We had something popping up. Yes, I lost more on it than I expected, but if there was ever a time to take a loss, it would be, at this time of the day. So in total, 65,000 yesterday plus 20 grand today is 85,000 on the week. We're cruising for 100K plus this week, as long as I can have decent days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I'll be back at it streaming tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. And if you have not already checked out my upload from yesterday, make sure you check it out. I talked about detecting hidden buyers, specifically hidden buyers on the level 2. I wish we had one on this one, but we didn't. I don't always wait for a hidden buyer, but when we have it, that can be a really good thing. So I'll put a link to that episode right here, and I'll remind you, as always, that trading is risky. My results aren't typical, so manage your risk, take it slow, and always practice in a simulator before putting real money on the line. I'll see you guys live streaming tomorrow morning. If you haven't already checked out our 2-week trial here at Warrior Trading, there'll be a link in the description where you can check it out. All right, so with that, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.